And we're live. Hello and good afternoon once again, and you're very welcome along to the webcast, How to Stay Sane in a Pandemic. And once again, I'm going to start by thanking everybody who tuned in last week to my chat with Felicity and Dingle and for sharing it across all the platforms. I really, really appreciate it, and I appreciate all the great feedback I'm getting as well. So if you've watched before, you'll know that this is going out live on Facebook, on Twitter, on Periscope, and on YouTube. But tomorrow I will share the link also on my website, which is barbarascully.com. And if you're interested and if you haven't seen them already, you can watch back the previous episodes there. The idea behind the next 30 minutes is to have a bit of crack and to also maybe give you some good recommendations for things to distract you as we all try and stay sane during these strange times in which we live. So coming up, you should find some good book recommendations of things to listen to, maybe things to watch, and generally a bit of crack. Because as you can see, the guy who is sitting beside me is definitely a bit of crack, as well as being a legendary television producer, who, for those of you who might be of a certain age, will remember what a big program MTUSA was back in the very early 80s, and Bill was the man behind that. More recently, you would be familiar with Bill's work on The Cutting Edge, and he's the Brendan O'Connor panel talk program, which was brilliant, and I wish it was still on, which was on RTE1. And Bill's going to tell us about what he's working on currently in a few moments. But first of all, welcome Bill Hughes. Thank you, Bill, for joining me today.
Oh, thanks, Barbara. It's great to be here, and thank you for asking me.
Not at all.
He's staying sane in a pandemic.
How are you finding it? Are you finding that you're a bit relieved now that we're kind of moved out of level 5 and we're back into level 3.5 or whatever it is that we're in at the moment?
I am, yeah, because it is a start to return us to some kind of normalcy. But yeah, having had COVID in April, May, it's a horrible experience. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And I'm kind of nervous about catching it again. So I'm extremely careful, taking all the precautions, and looking forward to being able to have a few of our nearest and dearest around the table at Christmas, now that we are being told officially that we can.
Yeah.
Unless we go off the rails in the next 2 weeks and everything slows down again. But we have to
crashing down.
Yeah, we have to assume that we'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So you haven't been to Penny's yet, have you?
No, it's not a normal port of call for me. I have to say.
I wouldn't have thought so, Bill, because show us what you're drinking. I don't think you're a man for Penny's pajamas. Show us what you're drinking.
Okay, this is a vodka martini with an olive, served up in a 1950s classic martini glass, and I adore it.
See? He's all class. So not shopping at Penny's. And Sláinte mhath, I'm on the gin today, on my civilian orange gin today.
You say.
What?
Sustabuna una.
Exactly. That's one I haven't heard for a while. Bill, let's start with books. And I know books are big in your life. So tell us a little bit about what you're reading at the moment and what recommendations you might want to throw out to us.
Well, I'm rereading The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne, because it's one of the finest novels I've read in years. It just completely took me out of myself. And I was amazed when I heard that Ridley Scott had bought the rights to it to turn it into a big 10-part series. And then I was even further amazed to discover that after 2 years, the rights had gone, and Lenny Abrahamson and Element Pictures had pounced, and they got the rights. And now my great friend Mark O'Halloran is working on the adaptation for the screen. So I'm very excited, because Cyril, the central character in The Heart's Invisible Furies, is one of the most extraordinary creations, and particularly when it comes up to the 80s. It follows his 70-year life in batches of 7 years. There are 10 chapters in the book, and each one is 7 years, so that's the 70. It's such a rewarding read, and I think people would just love it. So The Heart's Invisible Furies has to be found. And I'm a huge fan of the short story, and there's a volume out, The Glimpse of Truth. Can you there?
Wow, yeah.
Glimpse of Truth. and
That's
it's one
beautiful.
of the finest short stories ever written. And not surprisingly, there are a load of Irish writers in there. Everybody from James Joyce to Sean Whalon, Frank O'Connor, Flannery O'Connor, William Trevor, Julia Whalon, John McGahern, Bernard McClaverty, Dennis Johnson, Colin Tobin. Like there's a really good mix in among Gogol and everybody else,
Would there be any women in there at all, Bill?
there are loads. Well, Julia Whalon, so
Oh
and
God, I missed that one.
Nicola Barker, Joanne
Good,
Hayes. Yeah, there's loads of people.
good,
Really, really good. But I was just marking out the Irish ones in particular.
very good.
Georgina Hammock is in here too, who I really like, and Sheena McKay. So yeah, but it's really a solid, and that's something that you can. I love a short story that just you dip into it. You
Yeah,
know you've got the time. Set the time aside to read a short story and let
yeah.
it take you, and then savor it and come back down to earth
I
slowly.
love books. I love books like that of short stories that you can, as you say, leave around the house so that when you sit down to have a cup of coffee or you sit down to have your lunch break, that you can actually just get a whole story in one
Yeah,
sitting, and they're perfect for that kind of thing. That's a really good
and I
recommendation.
have a real bit of fun here, and for
Okay.
those if anybody, like for the man in the moon who doesn't know I'm gay, this is a book called Fabulosa. Fabulosa,
Right.
and it's
Yeah,
just out,
fabulosa.
literally just out, and it's the story of Polari, the secret gay language that came out in the UK 30s, 40s, and a lot of men used it if they were in the armed forces, particularly in the Navy. And it was a language that they used that when I went to drama school in England in the 70s, most of the gay guys I met would speak in the Polari because it was a way of keeping secrets. In the same way that the Irish think when they go on holidays, they can talk Irish and people won't know what they're saying. This
Yeah, yeah.
Polari was so there's very funny uh, uses of words. And I remember that the best exponent of it I ever heard here was the great drag star, Mr. Pussy. He came to Ireland in the 60s and created all sorts of consternation on the Late Late Show by running around. But he would always talk in the Polari. And Kenneth
Can
Williams
you can you
was,
give us a bit of it?
yeah, well, Kenneth Williams, oh, how bona to vada your dolly old eek, Barbara.
Ah,
How
right.
lovely, how bona to vada your dolly old eek. How lovely to see your gorgeous face again. So it says,
Wow.
and and
Oh,
uh,
very good.
and I see you've brushed out the raya. You have brushed out your hair today. So it's like,
Oh,
hey,
I don't know about that.
oh, Varda the Bonaomi and the Baruch be Jakes. Oh, look at the gorgeous man in the car beside us. This kind of,
Excellent.
yeah, it's there. But Julian and Sandy were two characters in Round the Horn, which was a great BBC radio comedy show from the 60s. And it was way ahead of its time. And my father used to have it on a Sunday in the kitchen, and he didn't know what they were saying, and I didn't know it. No, none of us knew. It sounded funny because it was Kenneth Williams and doing it
Right.
through his nose and stuff. But now, when I listen to Julian and Sandy, and if you look for them on YouTube, you'll find Julian and Sandy and what they say and Round the Horn. It's hilarious. They got away with
With
all.
Blue Murder.
Oh, they got away with murder. And this was in the 60s, and people didn't know that that's what was being beamed into their kitchens during their
And
Sunday roast.
go back to that book then. Is that book an explanation of this language or is it
Yeah.
is
The Story of Polari, Britain's Secret Gay Language, an essential book for anyone who wants a Polari Bona, anyone who wants to speak it well.
to speak
Everything is
as well?
Bona. So Bona.
Excellent. Excellent. That's brilliant. There you go. Every day is a learning day on here. I'm going to throw in one of mine as I usually do as well. I'm reading a book at the moment. It's a novel. It's very light, but I think it's very good. But I'm never going to recommend something until I definitely know. And I'm only halfway through yet. So I'll leave that hopefully for next week. But one of the books, and actually, I think if you haven't read this, and maybe you have read it, you'll enjoy it, and because a lot of people are watching or have just finished watching The Crown. I think that this book, which is Anne Glenconner's book,
I
Lady in
nearly held
Waiting,
that up today. I nearly held it up. I have it as well.
really,
Yeah.
have you read it?
I gave it as Christmas presents last year. She was on Graham Norton's
Graham
show.
Norton,
And
yeah.
you thought, I went into Dubray's the following day and I bought the stock they had and people for Christmas. Just she's a
She's
character.
wonderful, isn't
Oh
she?
yeah. Yeah.
And she's
Brilliant.
hilarious. And I
Yeah.
mean, but it gives you a really good insight into the kind of madness around the
Yeah.
kind of the whole royalty and the aristocracy, but also specifically about the years in Mustique that Princess Margaret was hanging out in Mustique,
Yeah.
and what went on there. But if you haven't seen Lady Glenconner
There
on
were a lot of
as Bill
these.
said,
There were a
yeah,
lot of these. There were a
there
lot
were
of
a lot of those. But if you haven't seen her on Graham Norton, again, if you Google it, you'll see the clip. And she tells a story about her honeymoon in Paris, which is absolutely brilliantly told and hilariously funny. And on the sofa, actually, is Olivia
Helena,
Colman and
Helena
Helena
Bonham
Bonham
Carter.
Carter.
Yeah.
And I mean, their faces during this story, it's well worth watching. But it's a great old romp of a read.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely highly recommend that.
Yeah.
Um, Bill, I don't think you're a man for podcasts. Sure, you're not.
No, no, not necessarily. I mean, I'll find them if they're special, but I'm not.
Yeah,
It doesn't grab
you don't
my
go looking for them.
I don't.
So when you want to stay sane, or when you want to kind of rebalance yourself when things are all getting a little bit out of hand, what do you listen to?
Well, I went on a writer's retreat last year, and every day started with a guided meditation. And the guided meditation was Brian Finnegan, who was coordinating the whole thing, and he would sit in the middle, and us aspiring writers would sit around, and he would talk us through our bodies and stuff. And then he was saying, find your own way to do this. And a way for me to do it is to listen to poetry. And I think the best uh, people who read their poetry are the poets themselves. And there is a boxed set out that RTE did, and it can be got. It is the collected poems of Seamus Heaney.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's the full,
Red.
it's a box set 16 CDs in it of Seamus Heaney reading all his poetry. And you can just put a CD on, all the way up to Human Chain. Just put it on, and that voice, and especially with headphones, and if you're
Yeah.
sitting calmly and he's reading his poetry to you, it takes you out of yourself, and it helps to push the world away and the cares away, and just makes you feel, wow, the power of words, when he speaks, apart from anything else, his voice is so soothing,
It's
and
beautiful. Yeah.
his accent is so soothing that
Yeah.
yeah, that makes me feel like incredible, just incredible. So
And that would make a wonderful gift for somebody for Christmas as well,
€60,
wouldn't it?
€60, and it's 16 CDs in the box set, and
That's probably available on the RT website then, is it?
I would think, yeah, it must be, yeah. But I picked it up
Yeah.
in Dubay's as well. So in Dubay's
Yeah.
Grafton Street, my go-to bookshop.
Very
Yeah.
good. Very good. And what else, Bill? Because obviously your music is obviously something that's terribly important to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to get an out of body experience, and I think some of the great stuff, like for example, uh, great recordings by Frederica von Stade or somebody like that, or Jesse Norman's Four Last Songs, the Four Last Songs recorded with Jesse Norman singing them, unbelievable. Or if you can get uh, Callus doing Song to the Moon from Rusalka, Borjak, beautiful. But then I also love pop. I love popular music. I love listening to Sam Smith and Will Young and The Killers, and I love Elbow, and I adore Adele. You know, I am so chocolate boxy. That's just the way I am. I just love all that stuff, and I love the sound of the '60s, the Motown. I, Diana Ross,
Yeah.
the Supremes, the Temptations, Martha Reeves, Stevie Wonder, I, that kind of music, and those box sets that you can get of the best of
Mm.
Motown, just that they turn me on big time.
And if you're doing your housework, Bill,
If I'm doing the housework,
I always
well,
think you need active music if you're doing the housework, to keep you moving.
when I'm cooking, I'm show tunes.
Show tunes.
I'm a show tune Mary. I really am, and I'll sing along with everything. I'll be Hello Dolly, and I'll be Wild Bill Hickok. I'll be whoever it is that's and I'll be washing that man right out of my hair, and I'll be tripping the light fantastic. I just love a good show tune. For our honeymoon, we went to Broadway to see Bette Midler in Hello Dolly. This
Oh
is
wow,
3 years ago. We were so blessed to get tickets in the
that's
third row. She
oh
could have
wow.
sat in this. In fact, I think she did. But it was just incredible, incredible. So that kind of stuff. Show tunes really make me feel happy because they take me back into the theater when I saw the show, and listening to a chorus line, or listening to Les Mis, or I can just sing along, belt it out, and it doesn't matter when you're chopping onions,
Exactly,
preparing dinner.
exactly.
That just makes me feel great. Or West Side Story. I like to be in America, and click, click, click,
Yeah,
click, click. Just fantastic.
yeah. Flamencoing around.
Yeah. That,
Salsa, really.
that,
Salsing
gets me,
around.
that gets me going.
What is this like asking you to name your favorite child? Would you have a favorite musical?
A chorus line.
A
A
chorus line.
chorus line. A chorus line. Because I was in drama school at the time, in the mid-'70s when it came out. And I went down to London from Birmingham, where I was studying. I was on the train and got to the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane. And I don't think I'd ever seen anything that gripped my heart as much as seeing the original A Chorus Line. And I went back to see it 3, 4 times. I went to a revival on Broadway about 10 years later. It's crap. It's awful.
Oh,
I just felt they
oh,
were all going through the motions. But then I heard that they're ready to revive it again, and that they'll bring it on tour, and that it will come to the Board Gosh, and I will be there. I,
you'll be there.
I
But in the
know.
third row again.
And then if there's a musical that can make me cry, it's Stephen Sondheim's Passion. Passion. It's the most beautiful. And I saw the original production of that on Broadway, and holy moly, Donna Murphy. Jesus, what a voice. And Jer Shea, just amazing songs and amazing story, and
Yeah,
really, really powerful, like an opera, but
yeah,
just a musical to grip the heart and to make
yeah.
you feel good about yourself. Like, it opened up with a naked couple in bed singing to each other about so much happiness and being, and you thought, well, we're in a different realm now.
Yeah.
Wonder it's called Passion, but it was sensational. What a
Really?
beautiful,
Oh, that's
what a
what to look
beautiful
out
show.
for.
Yeah.
You must you must miss live shows then, and live performance
Oh,
at the moment.
yeah. They're like life's blood, you know? They're
Yeah,
like
they
life's
are.
blood. They're incredible. And a good night in the theater, you can't beat
Mm,
it. You
no,
just can't beat it.
it does really
Yeah,
transport you somewhere else.
yeah, and Dublin, we're blessed with quality theatre. We are
Yeah,
blessed, and blessed with
yeah.
so many talented actors, so many talented directors, so many talented writers, that the combination that they bring together. And there's nothing as wonderful as going to the Gate or the Gaiety, the Olympia, the Abbey. There's just nothing as wonderful as getting to see live theatre and to feel it, and the shared experience when the house lights go down. That
Mm,
tingle that goes through your body, and that you're
yeah.
ready for everything. It's
And
fantastic.
the anticipation, even when you get to a theater, having your drink before you go in, the anticipation of the excitement building of what you're going in to see,
Yeah, yeah.
you don't get when you're sitting on your sofa watching Netflix.
No,
Speaking of which,
yeah.
what are you watching? How are you amusing yourself with the television?
Loving the Queen's Gambit. loving it.
Yeah.
We're just about to have the last episode, and we've been spacing them out because we didn't want to. We just knew that we could easily fly through it, but we
Yeah.
decided not to.
To savor it.
Yeah, yeah. And we revisited Sense8, Sense, and the number 8,
Hey.
Sense8. Extremely erotic, but magnificent television, great drama, set around the world with people who can feel each other's feelings and who slip in and out of each other's lives through time.
Wow.
It's a fabulous concept. Sense8, worth seeing. It's from
Sensate.
5 years ago, but it was so expensive they cancelled it. But and
Oh, wow.
they came back and did a tie up of everything with a 2.5 hour special. But if you
Right.
watch the first series of 12, blow your mind. It's just fantastic television.
Really.
Yeah, really, really good, really good.
Excellent.
And then
Excellent. Are you
classic movies are the big thing for me, though. Classic movies. We've even picked our
so
Christmas night movie this year.
you have not? God, you're so organized. So are you talking about having a library of DVDs from which
Yeah,
you'll choose your
yeah,
okay. And
yeah.
can you share with us what your Christmas movie is, or is it a surprise?
Our Christmas movie this year is from last year.
It's what? Sorry, you've
It's from
stuck there.
last year.
Oh, Little Women.
Little Women with
Haven't seen
Saoirse
that yet.
Ronan. Oh,
Saoirse.
do yourself a favor, Barbara. It is fantastic.
Because
It
I
is,
think that's on Netflix now as well, if somebody
yeah,
hasn't got the
yeah, yeah,
DVD.
yeah. I just
That's a
love
good
having
one.
a DVD because you can control putting it in and taking it
Yes, of course.
out. And then over Christmas, of course, I will watch one of my all-time favorite films from 1939, The Women,
Oh no.
the original, The Women. Norma Shearer, Joan Crawford. It's the every single person who appears on screen is female, and every animal is female.
How
Even
have
the
I never
dog,
heard of this movie?
the women, the
I've never
women.
heard of it.
It is just beyond. And what's it about? Men, of course, and it's about
Uh,
women talking about men. But the women, directed by George Cukor, from 19 and Rosalind Russell. I mean, Joan Fontaine, Paulette Goddard, like they're all in it. You know,
they're all there.
it's a fabulous, and it's in black and white, but in the middle, it goes into a fashion show which is in color, and but it's brilliant, and the dialogue is so sparkling. They don't make dialogue like that anymore. They just don't.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. There's some great recommendations right there. Now, tell us, I know you've been working on, I think, what would be a fairly passion project for the last while that's
yeah,
going to be airing over Christmas. Tell us about that.
yeah. There was a call out a couple of years ago by the BAI, and they were saying, "Could you please put in ideas for programs that reflect contemporary women's experiences in Ireland over that?" So there's me going, well, from my point of view, I think that from 1990, from the ascension to the throne of the president, Mary Robinson, all the way through to today, the changes that have happened then. And I was talking
Yeah,
to Eleanor McAvoy, and she said, when she wrote A Woman's Heart, you couldn't buy a condom, you couldn't get divorced,
of
you,
course.
you, you couldn't, it was illegal to be gay, the church
Yeah,
was still in control. So it wasn't a different country, it was a different planet. And so
yeah.
we have made a film called After a Woman's Heart. And it is juxtaposing everything that happened politically with what happened in the lives of the 6 women. So, who were on
Fantastic.
the album. So, Mary Black, Frances Black, obviously Eleanor McAvoy herself, Maura O'Connell, Dolores Keane, and Sharon Shannon. And it's directed by the genius that is Gary Keane, who had the hit of the Sundance Festival last year with Gaza, his beautiful film about Gaza.
Yes.
And myself and my business partner have produced it, Bernadine Carraher. We produced it, and it's been an all hands on deck kind of thing. It's a feature film length, so it's an hour and a half, full feature.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
Mary Robinson gave us the most sensational interview.
Really?
It's peppered throughout. But Eleanor has given us everything we needed, and all the women came. We got them all to remember what being on A Woman's Heart was, because it's a phenomenon. Like, it's still the biggest selling Irish album ever.
It
So
was
yeah,
huge.
yeah.
It was absolutely huge. Yeah, it
And there
really
are great
was huge.
stories. So to have that, against a time like the things that drove Eleanor to write the song, like the Anne Lovett case, like
Yeah,
Fairy Babies.
yeah,
There are so many elements, and that's what's all talked about to open it. But there are stories revealed in the documentary that people will be really surprised by, and they have never been spoken about before. So people say, "A Woman's Heart, isn't that?" Ha ha ha. Get back, have a listen, have a watch, and
and
it's a
that's
treat.
going out on RTE.
They've just told us it's going out on Sunday night.
Breaking news, folks!
Yes,
Breaking news.
literally breaking just before I came to you. December 27th, Sunday night, December 27th at 9:30. It's the perfect
Oh,
dream slot. Dream slot.
lovely, lovely, and it's such a treat to look
Yeah.
forward to. Such a
Yeah.
treat to look forward to. I don't know, just apropos of nothing in particular, but just from your professional hat on, I don't know. Did you watch the Hunger on RTE on Monday night? The first part of,
Yeah, it was wonderful. Wonderful.
wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Very well done.
Really powerful. Yeah, really great. Are you a pain in the neck to watch that kind of stuff with now because you'd sit there and you'd be looking at it from, a professional point of view?
Well, you see, I'll watch it. I won't sit and scroll watch it. I won't be
Right.
on Twitter, because I'm not on Twitter.
You
Because if
not
I was
know.
on Twitter, I'd be in jail. And I'd be in jail. I'd be arrested every Monday morning. The guards would be at the door to take me away, because I wouldn't be able to contain myself from the foolishness that goes on in the world that I'd be wanting to comment on. Like, would you ever? Would you ever? No, would you ever? And I'll tell you what I really think of you. That'd be me on Twitter. You see, I just, especially after a couple of martinis, I'd be like,
Yeah.
no, let me near. I have never been on Twitter, never, never, and I wouldn't go near it.
I think we need you on Twitter, Bill.
Yeah, yeah, but that's
I
the
think it'd be
problem.
great crack.
Yeah, but there are a number of people who've said that to me, but I think they just want to visit me in jail. If you can give me a nice hamper, that'd be nice, but that won't happen. Yeah,
Listen,
so yeah,
sorry, during all of this last kind of 9 months or whatever that we've been dealing with COVID, and our lives have been upended and turned inside out, and well, basically, like they've been made much, much smaller than they normally are. Is there anything that you have learned about life? Have you any truth, or have you any kind of insight that you gained from all of this changed way of living? Like, that's good. That's a positive rather than a negative.
because I've learned quite a few negatives. I've
Yeah.
learned about selfishness and how people are so selfish.
Yeah.
With regard to not wanting to wear masks and all that kind
Mm,
of stuff, and just that they don't see that is
yeah.
an act of selfishness is
Yeah.
beyond me. But then again, that's why I'm not on Twitter. Um, uh, yeah, I think the caring and the closeness that you have with those you hold dear uh, got even closer,
Mm.
and that you genuinely miss people.
Yeah.
You miss hugs. I think,
Yeah.
and I'm a real hugger.
Yeah.
I love to see people and give them a hug, and to not be able to do that, and to not even be able to shake their hand, but only to touch an elbow.
Yeah.
Gee, it just
Feels
feels
all wrong.
so wrong. And I really miss that. I miss that level of interaction. And I miss seeing, like, I haven't been able to see a family member. And I
Yeah.
had a family member who was extremely ill, not from COVID, from something else. And I haven't been able to see him. And
Mm.
now he's recovered, but I can't wait to see him. And just to
Yeah.
say, but I don't know if I'll even be allowed to hug him,
I know.
until next year sometime. And I think that missing, and I missed being in the office. Like, we're a team in the office.
Yeah.
Bernadine, Jennifer, Anne, we see each other every day. We share our lives, we share our stories, and out of those lives and stories come the programs that we make. And not to be able to do that, and Zoom is no replacement. It
No,
just
it's not.
isn't. And you're
No, it's not.
at such a distance from people. And
Yeah.
also, I miss seeing people. Like, I miss going to the pub, and I would
Yeah.
only go once a week. We go on Sundays, And we go
Yeah.
on Sundays at about 5, 6 o'clock. That would be the time that we'd normally go. And we'd see the same group of people and how you, and when that's whipped away from you, it's something that you take for granted. And
Yeah.
you really miss it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I
those
think
two,
that's And I think also it's interesting what you said about because you work in a creative industry. I think that, when you're collaborating with other people in a creative way, you
yeah,
really need to be in their energy. You need to be in the same room. It's a very organic thing, which I think doesn't really translate virtually. But anyway, on to better things. You're organized for Christmas. You have your movie organized. You're going to be lauded, I am sure, after December 27th for another wonderful production. So are you looking forward to Christmas?
I love it.
Do you
I love it. I love
have
it.
your tree up yet?
Will I, will I, will I, will I, will I, will I,
Go on, 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 go on.
will
Look at
I,
that.
right beside me. Look.
See you what?
Yeah.
A giant Christmas tree by the looks of things.
It's there. It's very real. We love it.
Fabulous,
Yeah.
fabulous. So you're all set.
Yeah, and there are Christmas decorations on that I've been collecting since my little flat in Birmingham. So there's stuff up on that tree that's like uh, 45 years old,
Isn't that brilliant?
and I add a couple of bits to it every year, but I haven't been able to add a couple of bits to it this year because it didn't get out.
I
But
know, I
I've
know.
mad stuff on there. I have Frida Kahlo's head on there. I've David Bowie's head as Aladdin Sane in there. I've got Betty Davis on the tree and Carmen Miranda. Like, it's
Of course you do. Of course you do.
I mean, Jesus, how cliche am I? But it's just the way. It's just the way.
Listen, this has, as I thought it would, has absolutely flown by, Bill, and you've been absolutely great. Your recommendations have been superb. And to anybody listening, I'll collate these and I'll put them up on Twitter tomorrow, and I'll put them with the link as well. That'll be up on my website tomorrow. But Bill, thank you so much for sharing so much with us and for being just great crack. And I miss you too. We usually see each other in News Talk
Yeah,
fairly regularly. So hopefully we'll be back in the same
yeah,
real space
yeah,
before too long. But in
yeah.
the meantime, Bill, thank you and Merry Christmas, and
Thanks for
enjoy
having
yourself.
me,
Stay
Barbara.
well,
And
and
to
thank you
you as
every.
well. Yeah, to you
Thank
as
you.
well. And those in Australia.
And those in Australia, yeah, I know, I know. Thank you, Bill, and thank you everybody for watching. As I say, I will put up the link to this. Will be on my Twitter feed. It'll be pinned to my bio, and it'll be on my website tomorrow, which is barbarascully.com. But thank you everybody for joining us, and I'll be back here again with another great guest for you next week on Wednesday at 4:15 for some more tips on how to stay sane in a pandemic. Thank you, and we're out.